You're not saying you think Republicans are gonna stop it?
I don't think Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
2028 presidential campaign. He's grandstanding and making a clown of himself because he wants national attention. He tried the moderate thing for a month and realized it wasn't raising him any fun.
Gavin Newsom, California's golden boy with hair shinier than a shampoo ad, just got blindsided by Lindi Li in a brutal political roast. This wasn't your average clapback, it was a takedown with receipts flying faster than his approval ratings. Li didn't just expose him, she left him scrambling for the delete button. And at this point, even his stylist might have trouble fixing his reputation.
That it helps him with his coffers and his fundraising. So that's why he's on a tear, and he's a complete hypocrite. And I just saw that California now leads the nation in homelessness and unemployment.
Who retweeted himself on Mount Rushmore. This is a guy who retweeted himself, dare I say, as Pope.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's hawking a Trump Bible. This is a guy who's out there selling perfume and with one of the great grifts, a coin.
But I want to get to the Trump is not hot. So
if you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. It helps more than you think. Gavin Newsom has always styled himself as the political version of a glossy magazine cover. The teeth, the hair, the perfectly rolled up sleeves, like he's about to fix California with a Pottery Barn hammer. He's the type who probably rehearses hand gestures in the mirror before a press conference, making sure every shrug screams empathy while every smirk whispers future president.
He tried to be a moderate for about a month. I think it was April,
when
May.
he started his podcast.
Exactly. He started his podcast. He had Charlie Kirk on. He tried the moderate shtick. Realized that it didn't get him the donations that he wanted. And then he was like, wait a minute. Being an anti-Trump crusader actually gets me money. I want people to be aware that a lot of what politicians say on TV, on social media every day is to get the coffers, to get money rolling into the coffers, to get their fundraising.
But the thing about glossy covers is that one scratch can peel back the shine and reveal the cheap cardboard underneath. Enter Lindi Li, stage left not with a scratch, but with a blowtorch. You'd think nothing could rattle a man who's survived wildfires, blackouts, and even San Francisco brunch culture in one political lifetime. Yet it turns out the real threat is someone who isn't dazzled by his Hollywood governor routine.
I want to say that $1 billion in 100 days is not just run of the mill. This is astounding. And I have a duty of care to my donors who gave millions of dollars, and it wasn't easy for them to give. Some of them were paying in installments. It was a sacrifice for them. They looked for ways to give. So, people gave their hearts and souls to the campaign. They deserve a serious accounting to see why we were told that she was close or even winning in some of the swing states, but we lost all 7.
what did they say? We heard on the podcast, but what did they say on this call? Did they accept any blame? Did they sort of talk about mistakes that were made?
No.
While Gavin's been busy practicing his commander-in-chief moves and perfecting hair flips, Lindi Li came armed with receipts so damning they made California's rolling blackouts look like mood lighting. Let's rewind for a second. Newsom has built his entire career on looking like he was born to run for office. He doesn't just walk into a room, he floats in like a cologne commercial, the kind that makes people subconsciously clutch their wallets. His whole brand depends on selling California as a utopian dreamland, with himself as the sun-kissed savior keeping it alive.
Not only did Gavin Newsom lie, he was the biggest liar. He was the one, and I was there. He was the one in the spin room lying to the entire world on the night of the debate, saying it was just a cold, nothing to see here, move along. But he is such a
Gavin Newsom's glossy brochure. Homelessness is exploding like someone left the burner on. Taxes are high enough to make Elon Musk cry into his stock options. And businesses are fleeing the state like it's the season finale of Survivor, yet Gavin still spins it as if California is thriving, like a magician pulling scarves out of a hat while ignoring the elephant trampling the audience. People clapped along until Lindi Li crashed the show and shouted, "That's not a rabbit, it's a rat in a tuxedo." She isn't just a random Twitter voice firing off takes between lattes. She's sharp enough to slice through Gavin's polished image like discount birthday cake. And when she talks, people listen. This time, she dimmed the whole room by going for the jugular, calling out failures Gavin's speeches couldn't hide. Homelessness, for instance, he's poured billions into it. Yet the crisis keeps growing like an out-of-control sourdough starter. Li nailed the obvious. Throwing money at the problem without accountability isn't a fix, it's an expensive band-aid that won't stick. For a man who prides himself on fixing things, hearing he can't even fix sidewalks without tents popping up has to sting.
Focusing his time on this complete waste of taxpayer money. He has no agenda items. He has nothing positive to offer the American people. The only thing he cares about is himself. Everything is about him. And even Democrats understand this guy is truly fake. He's if you look up snake oil salesman in the dictionary, you would see his face right next to the definition.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be snake oil or hair grease or hair products, but you never know.
Actually,
right.
Then there's the business exodus. California, the supposed land of innovation where Silicon Valley bros invent apps to deliver artisanal toast, is now watching CEOs pack up their Teslas and bolt to Texas faster than you can say no state income tax. Lindi Li made sure no one missed it, because when billion-dollar companies trade palm trees for barbecue and cowboy hats, maybe the California dream isn't so dreamy anymore. But she didn't stop there. She zeroed in on the hypocrisy, the ambition, and the not-so-hidden truth that Newsom seems more focused on polishing his presidential audition tape than running the state he already has. To him, California looks like a practice stage. Every crisis just another line in his monologue, while residents are left wondering why their rent costs more than a Tesla lease. That's where the humiliation really hit. Newsom's entire persona is built on being untouchable, the cool kid at the political lunch table with perfect quips, rehearsed smirks, and an aura of inevitability. Li blew that apart, treating him not as a future president but as a governor flunking his current job. She stripped away the glamour and left behind a man who looks less like the future of the Democratic Party and more like a failed landlord promising to fix the plumbing next.
He mentions 4 machinations that he plans to use in order to circumvent Trump, or in his words, Trump-proof democracy. And I just want to say, before I go into the 4 different measures, he is basically saying the American people cannot be trusted to make the right decision. Right. So I have to engage in these really slimy and subversive measures to undermine the bill of
11. The best part is this wasn't some dramatic takedown on live TV. Hit harder because it was simple, pointed, and grounded in the daily struggles Californians actually live with. That's what made it sting. Saying the emperor has no clothes is one thing. Saying his palace has rats, mold, and a leaking roof turns him from royalty into a slumlord. The reaction was immediate. The media smelled blood, and even people who once thought Newsom was untouchable started raising eyebrows. Nothing shatters a carefully curated image faster than cold reality, especially when delivered with precision. Lindi Li didn't just expose his philosophy, humiliated him, reducing his brand to a scam brochure for a vacation resort crawling with bedbugs. And Californians felt it. People already frustrated with rent, power bills, and commutes suddenly had a voice saying what they'd been thinking. Maybe Gavin isn't the golden boy he pretends to be. Maybe he's just a slick campaign poster hiding a state that looks more like a rejected Mad Max set. And if you're eyeing the Oval Office, being exposed as a glorified hair model with a failing portfolio is about as bad as it gets.
Not going to be a good person. Can you please not be a pathological liar at the very least?
He's unable to do that. They're conjoined.
I want to say, so he is out there doing a 180 on trans, but he's been on the forefront of trans advocacy all these years. Are you treating us like, why are you treating us like idiots, or that we were born yesterday? We remember distinctly, he was one of the most ardent trans warriors. Not only that, he has the gumption to rewrite history and say that he knew all along that Biden's brain was
1-1. Here's the kicker. People can forgive a lot in politics. Scandals, mistakes, even bad policy. What they won't forgive is hypocrisy. And Lindi Li spotlighted Gavin's hypocrisy like it was opening night on Broadway. While he plays the role of America's future savior, his own state is bleeding money, people, and patience. That contrast doesn't just bruise his ego, it wrecks the entire narrative he's built. Suddenly, Gavin isn't the dazzling frontrunner. He's the guy scrambling for a comeback, spinning away from humiliation. But once the cracks are exposed, people can't unsee them, no matter how much hair gel or polished rhetoric he piles on. And the exposure was just the spark. The real humiliation came when it spread like wildfire. Newsom, usually the master of controlling the narrative, looked like an overpaid firefighter waving his arms while forgetting the hose. The first wave of embarrassment came from the media itself. Reporters who normally treat him like a shiny toy they're afraid to scratch suddenly started covering him like a liability instead of a leader.
His first thing is a special election.
What does that
A special
mean?
session of the state legislature. He would just call them back and have them do a lightning round of Trump-proof measures that will circumvent his immigration enforcement and other, for example, the deployment of the National Guard. Basically, Trump-proof anything.
He lost that in court.
But he doesn't have that power.
He lost.
He is lying. He's just saying whatever. As I said before, he's just saying whatever he thinks his audience wants to hear.
Li's bluntness was too sharp to ignore. Her points weren't abstract, they were painfully obvious. Homelessness isn't a statistic, it's tents on sidewalks, needles in playgrounds, and tourists coming to San Francisco for Golden Gate selfies but leaving with zombie apocalypse photo ops. So when Li laid out the failures, the press had no choice but to pounce. And media. Sharks love blood, especially when it's from someone they once treated like political royalty. Suddenly, the stories weren't about Gavin's polished speeches or perfectly timed eyebrow raises, they were about the mess beneath the hair gel. Nothing makes a politician squirm like watching the same people who once kissed the ring start sniffing for dirt. The second wave came from Californians themselves. Newsom has always had a knack for making disasters sound like minor inconveniences. Wildfires are just a little smoke. Homelessness is being worked on. High taxes are a necessary sacrifice, and rolling blackouts are candlelight dinners. But Californians aren't buying it anymore. You can only sell sacrifice for so long before people realize they're the ones footing the bill while their governor rehearses for national office.
Was on the front lines of defending Biden. He wasn't just a defender and champion of Biden. He was the strongest. He debated DeSantis on the national stage. He went out of his way to, frankly, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he lied to the American people about the fitness of the president. He went out there again and again and said he was fine. Meanwhile, people like me were punished.
Of course, Gavin tried to spin his way out of it. That's his specialty. Take a mess, sprinkle on some charm, and hope no one notices. But when the receipts are this clear, charm looks like desperation. He can say he's fixing homelessness, yet people still step over tents outside Whole Foods. He can brag about California's innovation economy, but everyone knows their friends are loading U-Hauls for Nevada. He can dream about the White House, but folks wonder if he's even qualified to run an HOA meeting. That's why Lindi Li's takedown landed so hard. It exposed the yawning gap between his ambition and his reality. He wants to be president, but he's running California like a failing group project. He wants to be a visionary, but his vision leaves out affordable rent. He wants to be the Democrats' golden boy, but lately he looks more like fool's gold shiny, until you realize it's worthless. And the worst part for him, this humiliation has staying power. Most scandals fade like bad reality TV, but Li's words stick because they echo what Californians already live. People don't need headlines to explain why businesses are leaving, they're already gone. And no amount of smiles, hair gel, or sound bites can cover receipts this
And laws aren't optional. If you cannot handle your own state, the President of the United States has every right to come in. And right now, Gavin Newsom is treating public safety, he's treating our lives and our treasure as his plaything for his presidential campaign. His priority isn't the safety and the well-being of the American people. It's his own political preservation. He's positioning himself, trying to have it both ways, trying to pretend that he's all for illegal aliens, and then also that he's moderate. He cannot.
Where does that leave Gavin? In a painfully awkward spot. The man who once strutted around like the heir apparent suddenly looks vulnerable. His opponents smell weakness, his allies start hedging their bets, and every TV appearance feels haunted by Lindi Li's words. People don't just see the perfect hair and teeth anymore, they see the governor of a crumbling California. And Gavin knows it. That's the deepest humiliation of all. The narrative is slipping, and the damage isn't just personal, because when your entire brand is built on being untouchable, nothing cuts harder than finding out you're very, very touchable.